Welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the St. John Island Tour as part of the Royal Caribbean shore excursion options at the island of St. Thomas. So this shore excursion involves taking a boat from St. Thomas to St. John's and then taking an open air vehicle around the island and getting a tour of the national park as well as the plants and different historical landmarks. So if that's of interest to you, just keep watching. So I feel like when you're on a cruise, one of the most important things is what you choose to do for your shore excursion, but there's not a lot of information out there. Even what's available through like the Royal Caribbean website is usually like 2-sentence paragraph that will say something like, go to the beach and see some like local museum, but it doesn't really tell you what are you going to be doing over those 4 hours. So let's get into the shore excursion that we chose to do while we were in St. Thomas and St. John's. So this shore excursion that we did is called the St. John Island Tour. And we chose this one because in the little blurb that they have on the Royal Caribbean summary that you can get it on the ship or sometimes find it on the website, it said that this one will let you go to the national park. And I love national parks. I used to be a park ranger, and so we absolutely wanted to do the one where we got to go to the national park that's in the US Virgin Islands, because who knows when we'd ever get a chance to do that again. So this is a 4-hour shore excursion that includes a boat ride from St. Thomas to the island of St. John, and then an open air vehicle tour of St. John, because basically the whole island is the national park, which we didn't realize before, but it's a tour around all of St. John's, and then you get back on the same boat and then you're back to the cruise ship. I would recommend wearing just comfortable clothes. There's not a lot of opportunity to do anything but sit on the boat that takes you to St. John's, and then you sit in the vehicle that brings you around the island. You're not going to be doing any like hiking or extensive walking. So something that's like comfortable to sit in and breezy, because it could be pretty hot depending on what time of year you're going. So I wore a tank top and shorts and I was comfortable. I also didn't wear sandals. I wore my Toms because I was thinking maybe if we do walk a lot, like these shoes would be good. Though I did wear these shoes when we went to Devil's Tower and I twisted my ankle, so that might not have been the best idea, but there was no walking really, so it didn't matter. You could wear sandals or flip-flops, anything that you feel comfortable walking up some stairs. There are some stairs to get into the boat and to get into the vehicle, but not like a tour in the jungle or anything like that. Okay, so let's get into the details of what actually happens on this shore excursion. So it starts at 8:30 in the morning, and we met down in Studio B, which is deck 2 of Freedom of the Seas, and it's where the ice skating rink is. So we met in there, and then you get assigned a number. Someone will call the number, and when your number is called, then you go with your whole group to meet whoever is the person who's going to be giving you the guided experience of the shore excursion. It was about a 1/4 mile walk from the cruise ship to the boat that brought us from St. Thomas to St. John's. And this boat was called Island Girl. To get onto Island Girl, there were some pretty steep steps to get to the upper deck, and that's where most people sat on the way over. There's 2 decks on Island Girl. The top deck is open air and you can see all around during the tour, and that is where they give the guided aspect of the tour. The boat ride's not really a tour, but they did point out some interesting historical markers and like famous people's houses.
So that's the Charlie's Angels house right there, guys. Now we have this red gazebo right here at the bottom of the cliff. And then we have a red room and a yellow house. Now she came down here in the early 80s to film a movie called The Four Seasons. That is Carol Burnett's house, boys and girls. Now, if you go 2 houses up, not the white house, but the gray house or the beige house, whatever color that is, with the solar panels and the palm trees, that is our very own, born and raised right here on St. Thomas. That is Kelsey Grammer's house.
It was about a 45-minute boat ride, but it went by pretty quick because it was a fun experience. If you're someone that's really nervous about being on a smaller boat in open water, take a look at the clips I put in here, but the boat was moving like pretty much a lot back and forth, and I was thinking to myself at the time, if I were someone that got scared of being in a boat, I might be a little scared on the upper deck. There is a lower deck that's air conditioned, and you can still hear what the guide is saying over the microphone. You just don't have to be up there in the air. I recommend bringing some cash so you can tip the people who are bringing you over on the boat and the tour guide for the actual island tour, but also because on the boat they have some concessions and they were really affordable. It was like $1 for chips, a couple bucks for a hot dog. They also had pop and then some local beers. Once you get to St. John's, there's not another opportunity to buy any snacks because you're gonna go straight from the boat to the bus that's gonna do the island tour. Also, there's not another opportunity to go to the bathroom until you're back on the boat. So I would recommend going to the bathroom on the boat if you didn't go right before you got off the cruise ship, because it's a long time to not go to the bathroom, and you should drink a lot of water because the sun is hot and you're out there in the open. So make sure to take advantage of the amenities on the little boat and the food. Once we reached the island of St. John's, we were given a little piece of paper that told us which car we were supposed to go to, because this boat ride, it takes everybody from the cruise ship who's going to St. John's. So if you're just going to the beach, or if you're doing the shore excursion that's just free time in St. John's, or if you're doing the island tour, you're all going to be on the same boat together, and they want to make sure you get to the right spot. I wasn't worried about that because there's someone directing you based off of what piece of paper you have, but make sure to not lose that piece of paper. Once you get off the boat, and then they point you to the open air vehicle, which had a couple steps to get into. So I feel like while this excursion is mostly sitting, you have to be pretty able-bodied in order to get onto Island Grill, because there's some steep steps, especially to get to the upper deck, and then to get down, and then you have to go up a couple steps to get into the tour vehicle. Now, the two women that were sitting next to us during the tour, they didn't ever get off the tour vehicle, I think because it was just difficult to get onto it for them. So this vehicle doesn't have any seatbelts, and it's open air, so there's no windows, and if you're nervous about that, try to be the first person to get into the vehicle, because then there's a little wall on the right side. So what I didn't realize before we went on this tour is that pretty much the entire island of St. John's is a national park. And the visitor center to the national park is just when you get off the boat. So if you don't do the tour but you still want to see the national park visitor center, learn a little bit about the park and the island, once you get off the boat, you're going to go to the left, and it's impossible to miss. It's a huge light building with a giant national park sign on it, and you could go there for free without being part of the tour. The tour takes you around the whole island, so you get to see all the plants and the different historical features, but you don't really get to explore anything. So I hope that makes sense. The tour is 2 hours, and I learned a lot about St. John's and about their experience with the hurricane, their relationship with the United States as a territory of the United States, what it's like to live there. On this tour, you get to see a lot of the high points in the island and get to see the view. You can see the British Virgin Islands from some of the peaks, which was cool. The thing that kind of stinks about doing the tour is that you get to see all of the really beautiful beaches that are on this island, but you don't get to ever go experience them, which makes sense. You're on the island tour, not beach fun. And so once the tour was done, they brought us back to where the tour started, where the boat was, and around this area is the National Park Visitor Center, and there's some ice cream shops and little restaurants. So depending on how much time you have before the boat heads back, you can maybe get like an ice cream or a coffee or something. We beelined it to the visitor center and we got our national park stamps. I'm really into national parks, and it was so exciting to be able to get one of these stamps that I'd never thought I'd have the chance to go to the Virgin Islands and then get my passport stamp there. So that was super exciting. The boat ride back to St. Thomas from St. John's was a lot hotter than the boat ride to St. John's. And so a lot of people went down to the lower deck to be in the air conditioning. I would just advise that if you're interested in being on top and being able to feel the breeze and everything, to make sure you have sunscreen, water, and a hat. I'd gotten sunburned on the second day of the cruise, and so I had a blister right here. The whole time I was on the boat, I kept my hat over the blister because it was really hot. At one point, the speed of the boat heading back to St. Thomas was the same speed and same direction as the wind, so there was no cross breeze at all. And at that point, it was getting really warm. Royal Caribbean gives the advice of bringing bug spray or bug repellent when you go on this tour. That's completely unnecessary. So if you don't have any bug spray, I wouldn't go out and buy it specifically for this tour. First, you're never really in like the forest or anything like that, and you're in a vehicle that's moving, so any bugs that there are, they're gonna fly past you, or you're gonna fly past them. They're not gonna land on you. Also, I didn't see a single bug the whole time, so I don't think that that was necessary. We brought little bug repellent wipes, but don't buy it if you don't need it. I would say more importantly, bring sunglasses and a hat. So my final thoughts on the shore excursion. I really enjoyed it. I think that both the tour guides on the boat and in the vehicle, they had a lot of useful knowledge. They were friendly. I enjoyed the experience. I'm really grateful that I got to go to this national park. But if I were to go to St. John's again, I think that what I would do is do one of the excursions that includes beach time. Being in the vehicle and seeing all the beaches but not getting to actually go to any of them was kind of a bummer because they looked beautiful. And I feel like once you've done a tour of the whole island, you kind of have an understanding of what's there and the plants and everything, and so you don't necessarily need to do it again. I wouldn't recommend doing this excursion with children because it's a lot of sitting in the vehicle and not a lot of doing things. And I think that if you're like 15 or younger, you're just gonna want to go to the beach. So that's everything I have to say about this shore excursion. I hope that this video was helpful to you. I plan on doing videos on the other 3 shore excursions that we did on our last 7-day cruise because I really think that picking your shore excursion is such an important decision and there's just not a lot of information out there. So if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you could give it a like and maybe subscribe. Otherwise, I will see you in my next one. Bye!